Hi, good morning. As we wait with bated breath for Joe to face his fate in the final season of You, I wanted to go back and set the record straight on one of the most misunderstood parts of season 4. I have seen some wild takes about this last season, but as I rewatch it over and over and over, I can't help but lose my mind a little bit over all of the unjustified Kate hate. So I want to talk about it again because, like Joe, I am an obsessive and I like explaining things. So, first of all, Kate isn't evil. The biggest misinterpretation I've seen is that Kate Galvin, a woman who has no reason or connections to know who Joe is when he shows up in her life as Jonathan Moore, well, she's evil and just as bad as Joe, and she knew who he was, so she manipulated him into killing her friends and her father so that she could take over his company. I have read so many posts and comments that view Kate this way, and I have to believe that some people just watched the show once and they decided that they didn't like Kate from the start because she was standoffish towards Joe, a completely normal response to a certified creep, and they just carried that hatred for her throughout the rest of the show, ignoring every word she said as she very sincerely opens up to Joe and tells us, the audience, her character's whole deal.
I think about what I did, and I hate myself.
Here's a quick rundown on Kate. Kate Galvin, formerly Catherine Lockwood, was raised by Tom Lockwood, who is a business billionaire and very clearly an example of the abusive, controlling father that Joseph Goldberg would have been if he had a daughter and money. Tom controlled Kate's life and he groomed her to bring her into his businesses. He stalked her, tracked her periods and her hookups, and he got rid of anybody in her life that he didn't want around. Doesn't that sound familiar? Kate is a survivor of somebody like Joe. Her own father was controlling and manipulative, and her mother was mentally ill, forcing Kate to parent her instead of the other way around, and not letting Kate show any emotion. When she was 19 and working for her father's company, under his influence and wanting to prove that she could be strong and void of emotion, she falsified water toxicity reports to push through a project, and some children in a local community ended up with cancer because of it. At the time, she compartmentalized the consequences because that's how she was raised, to not show emotion, to be ruthless, and to put profit over people. But she knew it was wrong, and at 20 years old, she left her father's businesses and cut all ties with him. She left that life behind because she didn't want to be like that anymore, and she started to build a new life for herself in London, and she really believed that she did until she finds out in episode 9 that her controlling father has still had a hand in parts of her career and her successes from the time that she left. But we'll get back to that. So she has this life in London with Malcolm, who she knows screws around on her, but she stays with him because she truly believes that Malcolm cares about her. And I think that's a big thing for Kate. She wants somebody to genuinely care for her. Like, her father literally called her an investment. He wants to own her. But she believes that Malcolm cares about her, and she's desperate for that, so she overlooks his sleeping around with students. It's like a weakness because with Joe, even though she's cold to him at first, partly because she's guarded and partly because he's some random weirdo that she doesn't owe the time of day, she warms up to him and she starts to believe that Joe is sincere in the things he says to her. That's it. She takes him at his word.
Why would you even care?
What if I just do? Whether you like it or not.
She believes the care and concern that he expresses for her in season 4. It's something that she was deprived of growing up, and oh yeah, she's literally mourning. So she's extra vulnerable and probably grasping for anybody, and unfortunately for her, that anybody is Joe, who is telling her what she wants to hear. And when he tells her that he has a past that seems to weigh on him, Kate relates to that. Kate believes that Joe feels the same way about his past and his past actions and his future actions as she does about hers, but he doesn't. Kate left her father's business, she left the country, she refuses to take his call, she tries to reject the private security that he forces on her, and she leaves town whenever he comes to London to avoid him. Kate wanted to leave the Lockwood of it all in the past, and her actions back that up. Compared to Joe, who always says that he wants to change and that he wants to be different, but he never acts like it. He doesn't walk the walk. He keeps doing the same thing over and over. And that's why it's even more absurd to suggest that Kate manipulated Joe into killing Tom. There's been 4 seasons of Joe killing people. He does not need Kate opening up about the abuse of her father to manipulate him into killing Tom. He was going to do it anyway. And to me, there's something gross about the accusation and putting it on Kate that Joe killed Tom because the situation is that she just found out her controlling father has been influencing her life ever since she thought she broke free from him. And he basically orders her to come back to work for him because he says that he owns anything in this world that he wants, including her. So she plans on leaving town to get away from him because, again, she doesn't want to return to that life. She is sincere in that. But first, she calls over Joe to open up about her father's abuse, not to manipulate him, but to confide in the one person that cares about her right now because she's upset, because she's a human person looking for comfort in the person she's dating. That's not manipulative. Kate tells Joe that her father disappeared men out of her life and defended his actions by saying the world isn't safe and I need to protect you. And after she mentions the airplane hangar because that's where the conversation took place, Joe decides that he needs to protect Kate and disappeared Tom out of her life. She did not manipulate him. It is just another instance of Joe acting so hypocritically and hating a character that directly mirrors himself. Joe was always going to kill Tom even before Kate told him about the abuse. And you know how I know? Because the real Reese's body was found, and Dark Joe said Tom Lockwood set us up. Reminder, that's still Joe. It's remarked through imaginary Reese, but that is Joe deep down knowing that Tom Lockwood is going to be a problem that needs to be taken out. He did not need to be manipulated into it. He just got lucky that Kate told him where he was. Once Tom is dead, Kate doesn't need to worry about his influence, so she does accept returning to New York on the condition that Joe stands by her side and they keep each other good. She is being genuine and Joe is lying through his teeth. So why do some people think that he told her everything? He's a liar. He lies. There is no way he told her that he killed Malcolm, Simon, and Gemma, and she was totally cool with that. She knows that he killed Reese, but she believes that her father made him do it, so she covers it up. Kate does not know that Joe killing Reese was just him being a crazy person. She believes that her father forced him to do it because she knows how her father works and that he stood to gain something from it. Her whole thing is that she did bad shit while she was working for her father, but she's left that behind for years and years, staying committed to avoiding him. Joe admitting that he has spent years killing his intimate partners, starting over elsewhere only to repeat the pattern, directly disproves what she believes they both feel about their pasts. Why would she accept that? And why would he tell her, just functionally? Why would he tell her everything? Personally, I think he told her a version of what happened in Madre Linda, making him seem like a victim of love, resonating with Kate's experience with Tom so she could theoretically understand why he had to kill her to escape. Besides that, I doubt he confessed to much, but he definitely did not tell her everything. I think she would have to find out about Nadia at some point because Joe framed Nadia for the murder that Kate already covered up. I think she would hear about that even if he didn't tell her, but there is no reason to believe that Joe is honest about his past as he sat there and promised to keep each other good before checking out of the hospital to go murder Edward and frame Nadia. I'm sorry, no offense, but the comprehension is lacking if you believe that the lying liar who lies suddenly told the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in a scene directly followed by him framing somebody for murder and killing an innocent kid. And then telling us so clearly that he doesn't feel bad about it and will keep doing it. The whole point is that Kate thinks they both feel remorse over the harm that they caused, and she never wants to cause that harm again.
I have a past too, Jonathan. In another place, with another name. All I want is to never be her again. If you let me leave her in the past, then the least I can do is the same for you. We are trying.
So do the same thing.
But Joe doesn't feel bad, and he's gonna keep doing it. Going into season 5 is like the opposite of season 3, where Joe wanted to be good and Love was more chill to kill, but now Kate is actually good and Joe is ready to solve any problem with a quick stab to the throat. I think that's going to be part of the conflict. I think Kate is going to catch on to what Joe's doing in New York or what he did in London, killing her friends, and realize that he's become the exact monster she tried to get away from the first time she left New York, but I don't know if she'll make it out alive this time. Honestly, even Joe wouldn't try to say that Kate manipulated him into killing Tom. Season 2, Joe might have blamed 40 for giving him the means and opportunity to murder Delilah, but end of season 4, Joe would make no such excuses. He did that shit. He'd own it. It's 2025. Joe's accepted he's a serial killer. It's time you did too.